Welcome everyone to Weekly Creep.
Hey everybody,
We're your hosts, Dulce
Adam.
and we're gonna go ahead and get started with this story. Just like always, Adam hasn't told me anything about the story he's gonna tell. Our reactions are legit. For lack of a better word, they're genuine. And the only thing he has told me is that it's quite lengthy. That's what she said.
Girthy.
So yeah, you want to go ahead and jump in?
Yeah, okay. Hey everybody. So this week, I'm not going to tell you who I'm talking about just yet. But first off, I'm just going to get the sources out of the way.
Cool.
So I've got Wikipedia, The Racket Online, The Fifth Estate is a YouTube channel. It's like a Canadian public service TV thing. The Toronto Star, The Guardian, the BBC, and globalnews.ca. So in case you haven't noticed yet, my story is actually from Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, I wouldn't have gotten that.
From the Toronto Star,
Oh.
globalnews.ca, and Canadian YouTube. Anyway. So I'm going to start off January 18th, 2018.
2018.
Yeah, not
Fairly
that
recent.
long ago, yeah.
Do you remember what you were doing in that year?
I was probably at home or working.
Were you in Ireland then?
Yeah, I was in Ireland then.
Oh, okay.
That was, yeah, I had just got back from Ireland. You had just left.
Oh, that was the...
That was the Christmas you came
That was
over,
the
yeah.
Christmas I came over for the first time. God, that was an awful trip. It was an awful trip there. When I was there, it was amazing.
Yeah. It was Dulce's first long flight, and one got delayed, and she missed the next one, and she was very upset.
Yeah, by the time I got to the London airport, they told me basically, sorry, we can't help you. And they only were inclined to help me once I started publicly crying at the window for Aer Lingus.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Aer Lingus.
Yeah.
All right, well, anyway,
Oh, sorry.
January 18th, 2018, an unidentified man known only as John went to a 19th floor Thorncliffe apartment in Toronto for a secret sexual liaison. Sexual. John had moved to Canada from the Middle East 5 years previous, was married, and had not told his family that he was actually gay.
Oh.
Yeah.
The plot thickens.
He had met the man he was having this affair with through the dating app Growler, and had met up for sex several times before. They were into BDSM, so he let the man handcuff him to the bed. This was nothing out of the ordinary. But then the man proceeded to put a black bag over his head.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he managed to struggle out of the black bag, and when he did that, the man tried to tape his mouth shut.
Damn.
All of a sudden, police forced their way into the apartment and arrested the man on the spot.
What? How?
Yeah. So John was the potential 9th victim of serial killer Bruce McArthur.
I like it the way you set that up.
Bum, bum, bum.
Knock that out the park. Did he have like an alias?
No, this is a guy's name.
No, I mean, you know, like how they have like
Oh, no.
the Strangler or something.
No, but there's lots of potential. I'm going to go way back, way back
Okay.
to October 8th, 1951.
Oh,
And this is
wow.
the day Bruce McArthur was born.
Okay.
In Lindsay, Ontario, which is about an hour and a half away from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
His family were deeply religious, although his mom was Irish Catholic and his dad was Scottish Presbyterian, which caused huge arguments in the house.
How'd they get together?
No idea. That's literally a sin. Like
But-
my granny and granddad, my granny was Protestant and my granddad was Catholic, so she had to
Oh.
convert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just to get married. So I don't know how this worked, but anyway, caused huge like shit in the household. But Bruce would always side with his mom.
Mm.
He was an out and out mommy's boy
Mm-hmm.
from day one, which led to a lot of, his dad had a lot of contempt for him because he was always siding with, he was the fucking mommy's boy. So anyway, McArthur had one sister, but his family was known to take in several foster children at a time, meaning there could be anywhere from 8 to 10 children in the farmhouse. All, well, not all of them, but more than likely, from troubled backgrounds and blah, blah, blah. Now, there's nothing so far, like this case is still pretty recent to say like that he was abused or anything as a child. Like, I'm sure it will all come out in the next few years. But for now, he hasn't said anything too bad about like actually growing up, from what I found anyway. But from an early age, this is not my wording, MacArthur's lack of traditional masculine traits was obvious, and this caused additional strife between himself and his father. So he was like, kind of reminds me of me. Like, he wasn't into sports, stuff like that. He had like,
So basically, he used a napkin instead of spitting.
yeah, probably, and he had like won singing competitions and stuff like this. So I think if there had been a speech and drama program in the school in Lindsay, Ontario, 70 years ago, he probably would have been a happy little boy. But anyway, in school, he was known as a teacher's pet and a tattletale. And in my notes here, I have Ratso.
Nothing wrong with being a teacher's pet.
I don't know. There's definitely something wrong with being a tattletale anyway. So, as you can tell, people just didn't fucking like him. This is a direct quote from the Racket Online. Perhaps this was MacArthur's way of finding positive reinforcement from an authority figure, as he didn't find it at home, which, I mean, yeah, that could make perfect sense,
Mm-hmm.
Again, he had more feminine traits than the other boys, liked to sing, had won competitions. That was actually the only quote-unquote feminine trait that I could find. But again, it did drive a bigger wedge in the relationship between him and his father.
That's so petty.
Yeah, and he has openly said that, like, his dad resented him and stuff like that.
Because he sang?
Not specifically that,
but
just for being a little more delicate than the rest of the boys,
so
maybe.
Dumb. Okay.
He was forced to hide his sexuality, coming from a religious family and living in rural Ontario back then. In high school, he met Janice, I'm assuming, not Janice, Janice Campbell, who he ended up marrying at 23 after completing a program in general business. In 1973, he got a job for Eaton's in downtown Toronto before the Eaton Centre was actually built. So the Eaton Centre is, remember that big, huge mall right in the centre of downtown Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Eaton's apparently have just been around for fucking donkey's years.
Wow.
So he was working for them when they were like, I guess.
What was he doing there?
He, I think, was like a personal secretary for one of the bigger dudes or something like that.
Okay.
I didn't actually write down what he was doing, but it was something in the back office.
Oh, okay. When you said Janice, I thought of Janice from Friends. And now I'm thinking of this main character as Chandler in my head, looking like Chandler.
I mean, yeah, you might not be far off.
Because you know how they say, like,
Chandler was supposed to gay.
Yeah.
I think I just said Chandler was supposed to gay. All right, anyway, where he was working was very close to the newly forming gay village in Toronto, which is based around the Church and Wellesley intersection. I don't know how. I think there is a lot of like gay bars and stuff along in that area, because every source that I was reading was like, oh yeah, like it's the gay village. So I think that is just
that's just what they call it.
That's just what they actually call it.
Oh.
Oh, and also same-sex adult sexual behavior had just been decriminalized in Canada in 1969. So people were actually able to practice, like openly, like practice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Able to celebrate their like homosexuality as much as they wanted.
That's funny. Practice.
Yeah, wrong word. I've got priests on the brain. Anyway, he worked there until 1978 when he became a traveling salesman. So this is again from the Racket Online, and I have to agree with the guy's logic at least. He said he mainly sold socks and underwear, which is hilarious to me. This man was a traveling sock salesman. He would go door to door selling socks. Are you getting this? How does that even work? Good day, sir. Can I interest you in these socks? I don't think so. I cannot imagine he sold a single pair of socks. I can't imagine he was very successful either. But I actually read into the job a little bit more, and he was actually traveling around to like large malls. and
Oh.
department stores like selling his stuff to like actual fucking stores, not just people.
Yeah, well, in those times, like door to door salesmen used to sell all kinds of shit like monkeys and exotic animals and shit. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah, who was it who used to sell the monkeys again?
Oh fuck, I forgot. It was a serial killer, wasn't it?
Yeah. Or a serial killer bought a monkey or something from a
See, if we
door.
were on YouTube, we could easily be like, "Oh, if you know who we're talking about, comment down below."
Yeah.
But
Well, we
we
will be
can't.
on YouTube, so comment down below.
Oh yeah, yeah.
um. Anyway, so this gave him like he was just traveling all around Ontario, specifically like northeast Ontario. Oh, and here's where the parental relationship kind of takes a turn.
Mhm.
So in the mid-70s, MacArthur's father was diagnosed with a brain tumor. He was sent to a nursing home, and MacArthur's mother took interest in another man. I'm not sure what that means, whether they were like just seeing each other, being friends, or what. But anyway, MacArthur was very disappointed, and I don't know if he stopped talking to her altogether.
I would imagine that she probably got a little too friendly with someone because he used that kind of verbiage insinuates so. Like, what if someone told you, "Hey, Adam, Dulce is taking interest in this man."
Yeah, obviously I would take that straight away as you're getting that dick. No, but I'm assuming she was like an older woman at this stage, like
Yeah,
or
she was
just
probably just tired of him treating her like shit.
that too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not condoning either way. I'm just speculating.
Yeah. So anyway, his mother actually died in 1978,
Mm.
and I don't think they ever like fully reconciled.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, and his dad died in 1981. In 1979, I'm sorry, there is a lot of like dates in this, especially later on. So anyway, 1979, MacArthur and his wife moved into a new house on Ormond Drive in Oshawa, which is another like probably about an hour and something outside of Toronto. So they're moved back out of the city now. And by 1981, he had a son and daughter. Now, there was like conflicting reports on his children. Like one article said that he had a boy and a girl by 1981, and another set in the 80s, and then another source said that he actually only had one boy and girl. So I'm not 100% clear on that, but I think it's just the two of them. He became very active in the church, presumably to, oppress these homosexual urges that he was getting.
Yeah.
That's what one source said. And his neighbors and people that he worked with at the time, very like John Wayne Gacy, he was always active with the community. I think I read somewhere that he might have dressed up as a clown for like some function or something. Again, could be hearsay. But yeah, just super busy, super kind of like BTK as well, actually, with the church and, pillar of the community. He worked as a traveling salesman until 1993. And like I said, during this time, he had traveled all over northern Ontario and the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, completely on his own. And experts now are trying to get the police to cross-reference missing person cases from all over Ontario to see if it relates to his MO and stuff like that. In the early 90s is when he apparently started having affairs with men, and he came out to his wife, I think in 1993, but they didn't break up straight away. I don't know that it was a happy marriage after that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that his son was like not impressed at all.
Maybe the wife thought it was like a phase or something.
Yeah, or maybe they just weren't that intimate, and she was like, all right, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like they had been with each other since high school, so who knows how romantic they ever were, Could have just been a functional
friendship thing.
Yeah. Anyway, when his time with the clothing industry came to an end in 1993, the couple started to face financial difficulty. Again, this is where some dates kind of get muddled up, because it was between now and 1997, when they actually broke up, that MacArthur's son, Todd, started obsessively making obscene phone calls to random women, to the point where he actually got jail time. He was arrested, and I don't know if he was ever sentenced or what, but the family had to bail him out.
That's a big red flag.
Yeah, and just remember that. So in 1997, the marriage officially broke up, and MacArthur went back to Toronto, supposedly to, explore his new found freedom and sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
There was apparently no gay scene in Oshawa back then. I don't know how it is now, but the gay scene in Toronto is like fantastic.
Oshawa, you said?
Yeah, Oshawa is where him and the wife have been living.
It's the biggest gay city in the world.
What?
I'm just kidding.
It's like, how did I not know this? So anyway, he began frequenting the gay village and had a 4-year affair. A 4-year relationship with another man, and had also started seeing a psychiatrist to, I guess, just help him cope with this new life, and also the fact that he had gone bankrupt and the divorce proceedings and all that. And so the psychiatrist gave him some form of antidepressant. I'm not sure what.
That's interesting how he actively, it seemed like his life was turning around for the better.
Yeah, like if the rest of this stuff that's about to come didn't happen, I'd be like, oh, that's really nice that this older man was able to finally pluck up the courage to come out and go and live his fucking dream.
Yeah.
So in 2001, he met a sex worker on a chat line. So I think it's like one of those really expensive sex chat lines that some of our listeners aren't even going to know ever existed, but it was just a number where you would call up, have dirty talk with a random stranger, and that was it. And you get charged a phenomenal amount.
I wonder if those things still exist.
I mean, they probably do.
Oh, wait, I think on the Basement Yard, they did an episode where they called one of those numbers and they were only able to play a small snippet of it.
Yeah, that's right. They were the one, yeah. But they were specific ones from New York that had been oh no, they would just call 1-800-TITS.
Oh.
And so they would just make it up. That's what they were saying. So anyway, maybe this was 1-800-DICK. I honestly don't know. I'm also not really sure how they work or how this particular one worked, because
that's the direct line to a guy named Richard.
Yeah. Why do these people keep calling me? I'm a dentist. But yeah, so I'm not sure how any of them work. Honestly, I've never had enough money to call one. But this particular one, he struck up a kind of a relationship with this person, and they actually met up in person a few times for sex. So I don't know whether they had a relationship or whether he was a paying client or what happened. But anyway, on Halloween in 2001, just after noon, the man called and invited MacArthur over to his apartment to check out his Halloween costume, which I kind of want to see what this Halloween costume was. But things took a turn, and MacArthur actually struck the man several times from behind with a metal pipe and then fled the scene after he thought he had killed him.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened in the meantime. This dude is unnamed, he's never come out publicly and spoke about it, I don't think. But luckily, he wasn't dead. So when he woke up, he managed to call 911 and he was taken into St. Michael's Hospital. He had suffered severe injuries, obviously, to his head and body, and needed several stitches to the back of his head and fingers, which I thought defensive wounds, yeah.
That's
as well
how
as
we've been in this.
Yeah. As well as 6 weeks of physiotherapy.
Damn.
Yeah. So MacArthur turned himself in after the attack.
Mm-hmm.
Pled guilty to charges of assault with a weapon and causing bodily harm, although he claimed to have no memory of the incident or why he might have done it. So he avoided prison due to a lack of victim statement, because I think the guy just wanted to wash his hands and just be I don't, it happened, whatever.
Yeah.
Let me move on with my life. So there was no victim statement provided, and a psychiatric report and pre-sentencing reports suggested that MacArthur was unlikely to reoffend, and they also theorized that MacArthur's behavior was caused by his use of poppers, muscle relaxants or whatever, while taking his prescribed anti-seizure medication, his antidepressants. So they said oh, well, it was irresponsible, but maybe it was some weird fucking,
Reaction.
yeah, reaction between the two drugs that he was taking. And, I'm sure it wasn't actually in his nature, blah, blah, blah. Again, he just said that he blacked out, can't remember anything. So he spent a year on house arrest, followed by a 6-month curfew and 3 years probation, which a retired homicide detective from Toronto said was unenforceable. Unless a parolee comes into direct contact with the police, there's no way to actually control them. So all this house arrest and curfew and stuff was bullshit. Like,
just for writing something on a paper.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And this policeman said, now I don't know how strict MacArthur took it, but this policeman was saying, like, basically he could have been doing whatever the fuck he wanted. Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna know unless he happened to get, like, caught for doing whatever. So he was also banned from the Church Wellesley area, except for work or medical visits, which again, that police officer was like, who's going to enforce that?
Yeah.
But I will say that he became known in the area after this, and had like a few, like in the years after, a few encounters with people who were like, you can't be in here, like, I fucking know who you are.
That's community, y'all.
Yeah, and one thing I will say about Toronto, like, there's millions of communities, but there's like a huge amount of people looking out for each other, from my experience, which is really, really nice. He also had to stay at least 33 feet, which isn't very far, from his victim's home or work. Was not allowed to spend time with male prostitutes. Don't think anybody legally is. Forbidden to possess firearms for 10 years. Not to purchase, possess, or consume drugs without a prescription. Specifically not allowed to possess poppers, and had to submit his DNA to a database. And he was compelled to take psychological and psychiatric counselling, including anger management. So I don't know if that was enforced, or whether it was just like, you really need to go
Yeah.
and get checked out. A report conducted before MacArthur's sentencing concluded that his risk of violent behaviour was extremely minimal, and, quote, the subject upholds a pro-social attitude and is willing to undertake correctional intervention. Even the prosecution stated on the record that, quote, we are not alleging a worst-case scenario where Mr. MacArthur was roaming the streets as a violent predator, unquote. In 2014, he was granted a record suspension on the conviction, and it was subsequently expunged from his record, meaning it would not appear in any criminal background checks.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yep.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know how hard? Man, that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, so anyway, back to 2002. While the assault case was still going on in courts, MacArthur had registered with Recon, a gay dating website for dudes specifically into BDSM, where his profile stated that he was interested in submissive men. He was also active on Silver Daddy's Man Jam, Grinder, Bear 411, Bear Forest, Scruff, Daddy Hunt, Squirt, Growler, and more.
Why'd you rush through those, man?
I just thought they were funny names. So that was, once again, Silver Daddy's Man Jam, Grinder, Bear 411, Bear Forest, Scruff, Daddy Hunt, Squirt, Growler, and more. And actually, just a real quick story about Grinder. While I was working in Toronto, one of my good friends up there was in the changing room in the warehouse part of the building where we worked. And we often got temps in just for the day, and it would always be like different temps. It was rarely the same dude. Anyway, this guy walks up to him, and he's like, hey man, I know you from somewhere. Like, oh man, you're so familiar. And he, my friend was like, like, I get around, like, I'm always downtown, whatever. And the guy's like, no, I definitely know you from somewhere. Comes back a few minutes later, and he's like, I got it. Grinder. We hooked up, or we met on Grinder. We were talking on there for ages. And my friend's like, oh, like, no, like, it wasn't me. But this dude was convinced that he had met him on Grinder. And we all thought it was great. Anyway, 2007, 2008, he moved into the 19th floor apartment at Leaside Towers in Thorncliffe Park, which is about 5 kilometres or 3 miles from Church and Wellesley. He became fairly well known among the community and had a reputation for BDSM and rough sex. In 2011, MacArthur told an acquaintance named Robert James that he had been asked to leave a coffee house, which caused him to lose his temper and knock all the glasses off the counter in a rage. So this is the kind of person that he is, and that we will be posting pictures of him. He's an older white man, and in some of his pictures you can see how red he gets. James apparently told MacArthur then, he was like, look, I've heard other stories about you. I don't know how this came up, but he said he wasn't comfortable being around him because of all the things that he had heard. And MacArthur turned red and started screaming about you fucking F words. I'm not comfortable saying it. Always telling.
Yeah. It just occurred to me what those F words were, and I'm like, but you just said the F word.
Yeah, sorry. You fucking derogatory term for gay people.
Got it.
Telling stories about me. You're just like the rest of them. You think I'm crazy. Going into this fucking, like, just having a tantrum basically in the middle of wherever it was.
What an asshole. He brought this on himself.
Oh yeah, he's a piece of shit. But anyway, by now he's a fairly, like, well established, like, landscaper, like, small time. One of the dudes who worked for him said, like, he's just a gardener.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like obviously his business title is gonna be landscaper. But it was always him, another older white man who he appeared to be romantically involved with, and a day labourer typically of Southern Asian or Middle Eastern descent. So it was usually him, the older man, where like he was the regular, and then they would have whatever, like some temp or something. People did comment that they thought it was weird that he carried his tools with him all the time, but I personally don't think that was strange. Like, he had one car, and it was a Dodge Caravan. It was his personal vehicle and his work vehicle. Like, I keep my tools in my car when I need to, you know what I mean? So I just read that in a few different things saying, like, it was so weird. But honestly, I think that's probably the least strange thing about this whole case. His clientele were mostly wealthy older women. And due to Toronto's weather, they have seasonal work. So obviously, being a landscaper, you can't work in the colder months. So during winter, he was actually a mall Santa in Scarborough's Court Mall. I think that's how you pronounce it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I had texted my friend again, a different friend, not the one off Grindr. And I asked him, I was like, oh, yo, did you ever go here? Because he's from Scarborough. And he was like, yeah, I did. And I like sent him a picture. There's a picture of him dressed up in the Santa suit and all. I was like, this dude was there for like 8 years every Christmas.
You sat on his lap.
Yeah, or someone you know did.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently like he really enjoyed it as well, the Santa thing. And I don't know whether that like one random mention of him dressing up as a clown just came from this. You know, people kind of running with it like some tabloid or something.
Yeah.
But this is a fact. He was a Santa Claus. He was also a gardener. So yeah, the Santa Claus Strangler, maybe. 2014. Remember Todd with those pesky phone calls?
Yeah.
He's still at it, right? This is, like, he's a grown-ass man now.
Mm-hmm.
He was sentenced to 14 months in jail purely for this. Harassing people, obscene phone calls. I don't know whether it was like one person or multiple women, whatever. But anyway, when he was released on bail, he was ordered to stay with his father in his Toronto apartment. And he was to assist MacArthur's landscaping business. A former friend of Todd's visited one night and discovered the wall of MacArthur's bathroom was decorated with photos of naked men with erections. He said most of the men appeared to be East Indian, and that Todd said that they were men who his father knew. MacArthur didn't hide the fact, laughing over it at breakfast. I'm not sure about any more details than that, but that has to be, like, you're not going to do that with your son.
Yeah.
You know, like, just weird. I think that's very strange.
Yeah, that's very strange.
Like, you're not going to have all your past and present sexual partners, like, photographed and plastered on the bathroom wall for anybody to come in and check them out in all their glory.
In the bathroom?
Yeah, like.
And the guy was pissed that his friend didn't want to, like, stay friends with him.
Oh, well, it didn't mention anything about.
Oh, it's like, dude, like, I don't even want to use your bathroom. It's bad.
Yeah, like, what goes on in there? But yeah, another interesting little tidbit. This was still going on as recently as 2018, with reports of Todd leaving an Oshawa courthouse in relation to breach of his probation. So, the son is also a fucking sexual predator. And I'm pretty sure he's still like he's not locked up or anything at the minute. I
Mhm.
really was trying to find out more about him, but that's the most recent sighting I could find. So, Project Houston was set up in November of 2012 after the disappearance of, and I'm very sorry, most of these dudes have complex names. I'm probably not going to pronounce them all properly or any of them properly. I'm trying my best, and apologies to anyone who I upset. So, after the disappearance of Skanda Navaratnam, so Skanda for short. By June of 2013, the task force had linked two other similar missing persons cases: Abdul Bashir Faizi, Bashir for short, and Majid Kayan, also known as Hamid. All three were middle-aged immigrants of South Asian origin and had disappeared between 2010 and 2012. MacArthur was linked to two of the missing men through dating apps, and an anonymous tip led police to interview him on November 11th, 2013. MacArthur told police that he regularly interacted with Skanda at the Black Eagle but denied a relationship. He also told them that he had actually employed Hamid and did have a sexual relationship with him, but he had broken it off himself. Nothing came of this, but he conveniently bought a new car 2 weeks after the interview. Just that was mentioned. Project Houston unfortunately ended with no evidence connecting the disappearances or even that a crime had been committed. They never found bodies, they were just missing people at this stage. Andrew KINSMAN disappeared from Cabbagetown on June 26, 2017, the day after the Toronto Pride Festival. Cabbagetown is another part of downtown Toronto, or I would call it downtown Toronto anyway. It's, remember where St. Lawrence's Market is?
Mhm.
So that area there is Cabbagetown.
Mm.
It's actually my favourite place, I think, in Toronto. Just putting that in there. I was in Toronto once. But by June 28th, some of his friends grew concerned that he wasn't like texting back and stuff. So they gained access to his apartment and found it completely untouched, nothing out of the ordinary, except that his 17-year-old cat was without food and water. All his prescription medication and stuff like that was still there, and it was just weird. He was known to be extremely stable and responsible. He was openly gay, unlike other missing men. He was a bartender, a superintendent of his building, and a long-time volunteer with Toronto People with AIDS Foundation. So, again, just totally out of character for him to just up and disappear. Like, he sounds like the busiest fucking person ever, you know? He was also usually very active on like social media and stuff like that, but his phone was conveniently off the day he disappeared. He was 6'4" and weighed in at 220 pounds. Was very street savvy, is what they said, which just like the police were saying. So he was like extremely unlikely to be a victim of random violence, purely based off his
appearance.
His appearance, and like, I mean, it's that part of Toronto was very friendly.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, even the homeless people are nice there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, his friends reported him missing, and then he has the best friend, I have to say, particularly this guy Greg Downer, which, unlike his name, he is not a downer. He's a fucking superhero, and if he ever hears this, I want him to know that, like, this guy went above and beyond. So he founded and moderated Facebook groups, Find Andrew KINSMAN and Toronto's Missing Rainbow Community, which had about 600 members each, which I'm assuming there was a lot of the same people in each. These groups shared info about the missing men and organised volunteers for search parties and raised public awareness with missing persons posters. These people were so committed. They spread another picture on social media, at first showing 12 and then 11 missing men, but the info is outdated, and 5 of the men had already been found alive and well. A 6th was found dead, but it was ruled a suicide. Among the rest of the pictures were the 3 guys from Project Houston, and also Salim Essen, who had disappeared on April 14th, 2017. This led police to create a new task force at the end of July 2017 called Project Prism to investigate the disappearances of KINSMAN and Essen, and to also look for any links with the unsolved disappearances from Project Houston. Greg Downer organised a community safety meeting on August 1st, in which the police informed people about the new task force and thanked them for the abundance of information that they had received from the gay community on a whole. The Missing Rainbow community provided strategies for staying safe when meeting people from dating apps, and they were just really buckling down again as a community. Downer, Kinsman's friend, also contacted dating apps in order for them to provide an option for users to allow their data to be accessed by police in the event of them going missing. Because most of the dating apps were based in the US, the Canadian police had to, like, there was all sorts of bullshit trying to get access from the data. So
jumping through
Downer,
hoops.
so this guy Downer, like changed all that,
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like the dude was on top of it. They also set up safety hotlines for those who didn't want to approach the police themselves. There's a huge amount of homophobic stuff going on between the Toronto Police Department and the gay community, stretching back to the 70s. Just like, the Less Dead, all that that played a huge part in this. They think. I'm not going into that because I'm just trying to give the facts of the story. Otherwise, we'd be here for fucking days because there's a lot, which we will get back into a little bit later. Anyway, safety hotlines are set up. Volunteers searched the Toronto ravine system weekly, and by the end of October, they searched daily until early December when they couldn't search anymore because of the weather. It was just snow and ice. Again, volunteers out in the freezing cold, just trying to find anything that they could. According to Detective Idsinga, the leader of Project Prism, police found a single word on Kinsman's calendar on the day he disappeared, June 26th, Bruce. They also found CCTV footage outside his residence showing a person matching his description getting into a red vehicle. The footage was described as tiny and fleeting, no license plate and no clear view of the driver, but one chrome siding on the vehicle identified it as a 2004 Dodge Caravan. So there were 6,000 red Dodge Caravans in Toronto. Only 5 of those were registered to Bruce's, and only one of those was a 2004 model, and that one was registered to Bruce McArthur. By late August, early September, they matched the vehicle to CCTV footage from McArthur's residence, but when they went to the residence, the van was no longer there. So at this time, police obtained orders for the release of data from Google, Rogers, Bell, TELUS, Royal Bank, Manulife Bank. Rogers, Bell and TELUS are communication companies up there. They'd be like T-Mobile and shit like that. Tracking warrants had been obtained for vehicles and phones. And on October 3rd, 2017, the police found McArthur's old Dodge Caravan 43 miles or 73 kilometers outside of Toronto in a junkyard called Dom's Auto Parts, luckily still fully intact. They took it in for analysis and found traces of blood which was identified as Kinsman's and other DNA. There was semen and seminal fluid found, which was matched to Essen. So, in November, they brought cadaver dogs to a Mallory Crescent residence in the Leaside neighbourhood of Toronto, where McArthur looked after the owner's yard in exchange for storage space in the garage. And they found nothing, but police installed a camera to monitor the garage. So the police obtained a general warrant on December 4th, allowing them to enter McArthur's apartment covertly, where they cloned his hard drive and also his key fob into the apartment building, which helped them to put together a timeline for the day of Kinsman's disappearance. Like, obviously I wouldn't have thought of that. I'm not a fucking policeman, but I never thought that, your key fob actually registers anything other than you coming in and out of the building.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was able to say, well, he wasn't in the building here, or he punched out here, which my mind was blown. They still couldn't link the cases, however, and I think they were just trying to wait to get as much information as they could before they actually got him, because, rather than risk him getting off on anything. So on January 17th, a forensic analysis of McArthur's hard drive recovered deleted files which contained post-mortem pictures of his victims. Officers were put on round-the-clock surveillance of McArthur and were told that he should be immediately arrested if seen alone with anyone. The very next day, he was arrested with John. The owners of the Mallory Crescent residence, where he used the garage, were barred from their home on January 18th also. Cadaver dogs were brought in again, and they took a strong interest in large planter boxes which had frozen to the ground, so they had to bring in heaters to thaw them out before they could remove them and bring them to the coroner's office. Detective Itzinga announced that they were investigating an alleged serial killer who had concealed evidence by burying it across the city. They said there was hundreds of officers involved and 30 properties that needed to be searched. On January 29th, police announced that they had found dismembered skeletal remains of at least 3 people in 2 out of 12 large planters taken from this residence. Even though the remains hadn't been identified, the police had gathered enough evidence to charge McArthur with 3 additional counts of first-degree murder in the presumed deaths of Majid Kayan, SOROUSH MAHMUDI, and Dean Lisowick. So Majid Kayan was 58. He was believed to have led 2 separate lives, one with his family and one in the village. Kayan was an Afghan immigrant and the youngest of many siblings. He had a wife and children and also frequented many of the bars in the village and actually kept an apartment in the area. So he was completely like 2 lives. His son reported him missing in the autumn of 2012 when he could no longer reach him. McArthur told police that he had employed him as a landscape helper and claimed to have had a brief sexual relationship with him. This is a quote from his brother. "I still have not comprehended how this crime happened. It has consumed the majority of my thoughts." The police believe Kayan was killed around October 18th, 2012. SOROUSH MAHMUDI, 50, was a refugee from Iran and reported missing by his wife. In a statement to the court, she called him her soulmate and said that she had been overwhelmed by grief at his brutal slaying. Police believe Mahmoudi was killed in August 2015 and found a coat with his DNA on it in McArthur's van during their investigation. Dean Lisowick, 47, was McArthur's 6th victim, but unlike the others killed by McArthur, he was never reported missing to police. The 47-year-old was often found staying in homeless shelters in Toronto and worked in the sex trade. In a statement read to the court, his daughter said, "I will always have to live with knowing that I will never have a relationship with my father." His cousin told the court that his face lit up whenever he spoke about his daughter and that he had hoped to get his life together so he could do more for her. He also kept in touch with his parents until his struggles with mental illness landed him on the streets. But his uncle told the court that even then he would still occasionally send cards to his mother that had been, quote, searched out carefully for their expressions of love. He was a loving and caring man, his uncle Jerry Montanti said. He was not alone in the world. His name was added in February 2018 to the Toronto Homeless Memorial, which remembers those who have died as a result of homelessness in the city. He is believed to have been killed sometime around late April 2016. McArthur kept some of Lisowick's jewellery, which police later found in his apartment, according to the court documents. Criminologist and Western University professor Michael Arnfield said that the alleged method of disposal suggested a sophisticated killer who had developed his craft, and as most serial killers begin in their 20s, the crimes could go back several decades. On February 8th, police announced that they had found 3 more people in the planters from this same property. Andrew KINSMAN was one of these people. So again, Andrew KINSMAN was 49. Quote, "He wanted to make the world a better place for those struggling to survive," his sister Karen Coles told the court in February. His sister described him as someone who, under his gruff demeanour, cared deeply about other people and who championed social justice issues. An extraordinary, quirky and caring individual. Salim Esen, 44, originally from Turkey. Esen came to Canada in 2013. He disappeared from his home near the village in April 2017. Quote, "He was very friendly, kind-hearted, open, independent-minded and curious, passionate about learning new things, gardening, exploring new places and meeting new people," Esen's brothers said in a family statement in June. His tender and kind humanity came before everything else. The court heard in February that Essen spoke to his best friend every day, and when he did not reply to a text, his friend reported him missing. Essen had struggled in the past with substance abuse, but friends told the court during MacArthur's sentencing hearing that he had reached a turning point and hoped to help others in their recovery. He was described as a nature lover who enjoyed managing a cafe, who had a passion for sociology and philosophy, and who was generous and selfless with his friends. Many told the court they are still struggling to come to terms with his murder. MacArthur kept a notebook owned by Essen, which police later found in his apartment. The owners of the property moved back in on, I think it was a weekend, but between February 10th and 11th, and requested that police leave the crime scene tape up to deter reporters who had already been harassing them apparently. The searches of the Leaside home and MacArthur's apartment made up the largest forensic investigation conducted by the Toronto police. In MacArthur's bedroom, officers found a bag with duct tape, a surgical glove, rope, zip ties, a bungee cord, and syringes, as well as DNA belonging to multiple victims inside MacArthur's van and on a fur coat. February 23rd, MacArthur was charged with a sixth count of first-degree murder in the death of Scarborough Navaratnam, again recovered from the Leaside residence. So Scarborough, or Skanda Navaratnam, was 40, and he was actually MacArthur's first victim, at least that they can prove. The 40-year-old had moved to Canada from Sri Lanka in the 1990s as a refugee and settled into life in the city's gay village. He has been described as someone who was very social and jovial, and always ready to help out his friends. One friend said that he was an educated and curious man with a strong interest in global affairs and who was unbeatable at Scrabble. His laugh was just ridiculous, Jody Becker, a bartender at Zippers and close friend of Navaratnam's, told the Toronto Star after he went missing. If Skanda started laughing, everybody started laughing, even if it wasn't funny. When he disappeared in September 2010, abandoning a new puppy alone in his apartment, his friends called police. According to court documents, police found a silver bracelet belonging to Navaratnam in MacArthur's bedroom during their investigation. Apparently he had known MacArthur since the early 2000s and they had dated. April 11th, MacArthur was charged with the murder of Abdul Bashir Faizi, who was 42. Faizi's disappearance in December of 2010, along with that of Navaratnam and Majid Kayan, who went missing in 2012, prompted Toronto police to launch Missing Persons Task Force Project Houston. Faizi was married and a father of two. He divided his life between the Toronto suburb of Brampton, where he lived, and his social life in the gay village downtown. His family reported him missing, but because they didn't know of his ties to the village, his disappearance largely flew under the radar of Toronto's LGBT community. During MacArthur's sentencing hearing, his wife said in a statement that his daughters, who were aged 6 and 10 when he disappeared, often still cry for their father. She said she is struggling to support the family. Faizi's car was found abandoned near a home that MacArthur had access to at the time of the killing, court documents state. April 16th, MacArthur was charged with the murder of Krishna Kumar Kanagaratnam, 37. This one's actually the saddest one, I think. Police said his name had not come from the many tips generated by the release of his post-mortem photograph, but that he had been identified with help from an undisclosed international agency. He came to Canada on the MV Sunsea in 2010, a ship carrying almost 500 Sri Lankan asylum seekers that arrived in Canadian waters that summer. His refugee claim was denied, and he was ordered to be deported. Police and family did not report him missing because they assumed he was in hiding. He was close with his family and talked to them regularly, the court heard. Family members described in court statements the shock and pain they felt upon learning of his fate. Police have said that it is not clear how he came in contact with MacArthur, given that he had no clear ties to Toronto's gay village. He had last had contact with his family in August 2015, and police believe that he had been killed between September 3rd and December 14th, 2015. Of 600 cold cases being looked into for further investigation, 15 were linked to the Church and Wellesley area, and the general profile of the victims were similar, dating from 1975 to 1997. On January 29th, 2019, bearing in mind this is like last year, McArthur pleaded guilty to each of the 8 first-degree murder charges that he was facing, ending the possibility of any trial. So all of McArthur's victims died of ligature strangulation. The murder weapon was a metal bar that had a rope attached to it to fashion a garrote. This created a mechanism whereby rotating the bar would turn the knot, increasing pressure on the neck, because you can tighten and loosen it and watch them come in and out of consciousness.
There's more control in that.
Yeah, it's a whole process. On his computer, they found photos of the victims naked and either unconscious or dead. Or in some photos, the victims still had the weapon around their neck. He would pose the bodies in a fur coat or fur hat with unlit cigars in their mouths. The photos indicated that the victims were restrained and sexually assaulted before death. The photos were organized into folders labeled with each victim's name. John had his own folder waiting for him.
That's scary.
Yeah. So he would actually download pictures from the victim's social media before he'd even killed them and just have them ready. And like I said, John's pictures were in his folder. He committed these murders. He committed these murders while his son and roommate were still living with him, and possibly even while they were there. Certainly the bodies would have been in the room while they were there. He then dismembered the victims. And we're not sure where he carried this out, but there is evidence to suggest that he would either cut them up and let them decompose somewhere and then he would plant them, or he would just let them kind of decompose, then cut them up and then plant them. We're not sure which. I'm sure, again, this is a super recent case, so I'm sure we'll get a lot more information in the coming years.
I forgot to ask this. What's a planter's box?
Oh, just a big like flower
like a long flower pot?
Yeah, like a raised flower bed.
Okay.
So, yeah, a raised flower bed, we'll say. Anyway, so June 20th, 2016, McArthur and an unidentified man whom he had met through a dating app were masturbating each other in the back of McArthur's van in a McDonald's restaurant parking lot in North York. Just
classy.
A classy night out, baby. Anyway, so yeah, they were in the van doing their thing. McArthur allegedly began throttling the man, like just randomly started fucking choking him or whatever. The man broke free and said that he would report what happened to the police. Sources then vary, with McArthur following the man to a police station or possibly driving to a Scarborough police station while the man phoned the police. McArthur either claimed it was the man who had choked him or that the man had asked to be choked, then panicked and fled. According to one source, McArthur was placed under arrest and taken from 41 Division in Scarborough to 32 Division in North York, where the investigation continued. No occurrence report was filed and McArthur was not charged. Homicide investigators only became aware of this alleged incident after McArthur's arrest, when that man, who was the victim here, actually came forward to say, like, how did you guys not know this? The victim called 911 after he had escaped, while McArthur went to the police. And McArthur went to the police and said that the incident was consensual, so he was let go, because this is where the homophobic bullshit comes in. The police officer was obviously like, oh my god, 2 men touching each other.
Yeah, I don't want to like.
I don't want to get involved in case I catch the gay.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So anyway, that police officer who handled this case, I didn't get too into it. I just know that he was in a lot of trouble. He got suspended and stuff like that recently. So I don't know whether he was allowed back in the force or what. But like, they need obviously to make an example of him, because this is such a huge case. But also because I do think they're actively trying to show the gay community of Toronto that they're on their side as well. You know, like that stuff is all in the past. Hopefully, anyway. So, February 8th, 2019, Justice McMahon sentenced MacArthur to life imprisonment with no parole eligibility for 25 years. McMahon described the crimes as pure evil and stated that MacArthur showed no evidence of remorse and would have continued killing had he not been apprehended. This is the only information I got from the Toronto Sun, but they noted that MacArthur is overweight with type 2 diabetes and is unlikely to live that long.
Shade.
Yeah. So, April 11th, 2019, allegedly Bruce McArthur was assaulted in prison and hospitalized, a police source said. It happened at the Millhaven Institution, a maximum security facility located east of the village of Bath in Ontario. So, yeah, that's where this story ends for now. But he's obviously not liked in prison.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a tattletale in prison too.
Oh, yeah.
So, it sounds like he's getting his comeuppance somewhat.
Well, I don't know if he's allowed to parole in 25 years. That's a pretty shit, sentencing.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
He's allowed to apply for parole in 25 years, but you have to remember that he was born in 1951. So he'll be 93 when he becomes eligible for parole.
Mm.
And he's overweight and has type 2 diabetes, so it's unlikely to happen.
According to the Sun.
Yeah. Thanks for that input, Toronto Sun. So yeah, Bruce McArthur.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And we have a lot of pictures, but yeah, because it's such a modern case as well, or such a recent development, there's lots of pictures. And Todd MacArthur, you're a piece of shit too, just like your dad. Leave those random ladies alone.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably end up covering him at some point.
Yeah, by the sounds of things, yeah.
Yeah.
And like that, if they ever do manage to link him to like all those missing people cases from the 70s. So just real quick, the documentary that I referenced earlier on, The Fifth Estate, is the name of their channel on YouTube. And the one of the videos I watched was, I think, like 20 minutes or something, but they definitely outline the struggle that the LGBTQ community in Toronto faced in the 70s. Like, there was riots against just the decriminalization of gay sexual behavior, or homosexuality basically. And from then on, there was a known serial killer in the 70s and 80s in the gay community in Toronto. So there's a huge amount of information out there on that. It's not something that I wanted to cover because, like I said, we would have been here for days, and only now are they actually looking back into it. So
That's
hopefully
crazy.
we'll have answers in the coming years.
Yeah.
So that's my story.
That's a really good story. We'll probably end up seeing a lot of the emergence of other crimes to be looked into. Like they'll probably see that there's more missing people or like cold cases, and then they'll serial killers or just random murders will start coming out the woodworks.
Yeah, I mean, especially particularly with MacArthur, since he traveled all over.
Yeah, I mean, he covered a lot of space.
Ontario's pretty fucking big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really good story, man.
Thanks, bro.
That's just how I talk sometimes.
All right.
All right, so this is going to be a pretty lengthy episode, but that's okay because you like it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, convince yourself that you like it.
Just let's play pretend.
Okay.
Give it to me.
All right. So, first of all, I want to thank one of our biggest supporters of Weekly Creep for sending me the article that led me to go down a very bizarre rabbit hole. Sadia, we love you very much.
Yes, we do.
All right. So, our strange story, or rather tradition, takes us to Thailand. There is a spooky tradition here called Kuman Thong, or Kuman Thong.
Human Thong?
I'm going to pronounce it Kuman Thong.
Okay.
Okay. Because I don't know anybody who speaks this language.
That's fine. I just butchered 8 poor victims' names unintentionally, but I'm sure I did. So
I want to plug it into Google Speech or Speak, but I think though it'll probably butcher it.
it'll just pronounce
The
it
same.
in English anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kuman, Thong.
So do you know what that means?
No.
No, I'm just curious. So the term translates to golden boy.
Oh, me.
So it's actually the practice of adopting or harnessing the spirit of an unborn fetus for personal gain and benefits.
While it's still in the mother? Or like...
No.
Okay.
Well, okay. So let me...
Okay.
So they're harnessing the soul of an unborn fetus or unborn baby, which is a fetus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the fetus dies, that's what they're trying to harness.
Oh, okay. Okay. I get you.
Yeah. It is common for any one person or family to have a collection of fetus spirits in their possession. This practice of their personal fetus spirit collection is mainstream, showing up in autobiographical books from celebrities, magazines. You can even purchase figurines that are inhabited with fetus spirits on eBay.
I'm sure you're going to get into this, but is this like... would it be like a positive thing? Or is it...
Depends on who you ask.
Okay, because like, say, for example, like your granny dies, or yeah, like say your mother did like have a baby that she didn't, that was miscarried, and like if something goes right, they'd say, oh sure, that's, Bobby looking after you or something.
Possibly, and maybe not.
Okay, very clear.
Okay. It could be, yeah, you could explain it that way, but it's if that were to happen, there are certain measures that you'd have to take in order to thank that spirit, but like
Okay.
like we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Originally the term referred to exclusively fetuses, but now the term is an umbrella term for born babies that have died as babies and small children who have also died. Okay. This tradition originated from a 19th century novel titled Kun Cheng Kun Fan, or Kun Fain.
I know it well.
Kun Fain was a big shot soldier who was tight with the king, and he earns favor with a powerful sorcerer. The sorcerer likes him so much that he gives him his daughter for marriage. Fuck the patriarchy. So they get married, but as time passes, Kun Fain and the sorcerer have a lot of falling outs, and the sorcerer tells his daughter to poison Kun Fain. Kun Fain finds out and cuts out his baby from his wife's womb out of anger.
Whoa.
He takes the fetus, covers it with sacred cloth covered in prayers, like the prayers are written on the cloth.
Okay.
Builds a fire at a temple and grills it. As he's grilling it, he chants prayers until the fetus is only a skin-covered skeleton. At the end of the ritual, Kun Fain can communicate with the ghost of his child and becomes a spirit guide for his father.
Wow. That is one hardcore story. This is from Thailand? Like
Yes.
The stories, the book, rather?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Ancient manuscripts have additional steps of how to make your own Kuman Thong, and they're still in existence, these manuscripts. They say things like how the ritual has to be done before dawn, and like it has to be in a cemetery. You have to paint the fetus skeleton with lacquer so the gold leaf that you have to apply afterwards sticks. Kuman Thong are traditionally made by men who are well versed in magic and ghost manipulation, like the
soldier.
The main character of that story, Kun Feng.
So those like instructions seem very like practical and literal. Like if they're talking like, oh, you gotta lacquer the bones.
Yeah, they're very particular.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. Kind of like a how-to. Today, what is more commonly used are figurines and amulets that are supposed to like inhabit or house these spirits. Sorry. Buddhist temples in Thailand sell these wooden figurines of little boys, but the most sought after are figurines made out of demolished Buddhist temples, because it's believed that the building's materials would have soaked up the power of monks who would have been in these temples chanting prayers all day and night. These figurines are made with the intention to house spirits who volunteer to help a prospective family or individual that adopts it. You can also get Kuman from spirit mediums who specialize in imbuing spirits into objects for 100 bahts, which is the currency there, and well into the thousands. Some who have acquired these spirits have said that they have been sought out by the spirit themselves in dreams. These particular Kuman are said to be at the top of the hierarchy, because there is a hierarchy of these souls.
Okay.
Like, I guess classes, you know?
Yeah, so they're almost godlike or deity.
The highest class is very like lofty in that sense. So the term Kumantong is an umbrella term for different kinds of child spirits, as I mentioned before. The ones who sit on top are said to be instructed by the heavens to join a family. They're specifically called Kumantep. Okay. These kinds of spirits cannot be commanded in the way that Kuman Fry or Kuman Phi can. Instead, you can only ask them general things like protection and good luck and prosperity, things like that. Very like general phrases.
Mm-hmm.
The type of Kumantong who are below that, they're called Kuman Phi, who are the wandering souls of children, fetuses, infants, and they're seeking a new family in order to earn good karma for the next life, because Thailand is mostly Buddhist.
Okay.
So they believe in reincarnation.
Right.
Lastly, there are Kuman Fry, who are souls of, fetuses or babies, small children, who have died violently. Practitioners of black magic make powerful figurines by anointing them with fat extracted from a dead child.
Jesus.
Acquiring or possessing the materials to make these kinds of figurines is highly illegal because of supply and demand in the black market. It still happens. These spirits are likely captured by force of the practitioners in order to control them and use them for evil shit. Kuman Fry are the most powerful, and if not taken care of correctly, can be dangerous. And I'll get into what I mean by taken care of. Okay. So there's several ways that you can make Kuman Fry. Like this one, like you extract the fat from a dead child or a dead fetus or a dead baby.
Yeah.
You can also like hold a candle next to a dying woman, and that wax that drips, like that wax can be used to make these figurines and trap a Kuman Fry, which is like they have like lots of different ways, like sort of elaborate ways that are sort of like the same thing, like it's very macabre in the way that these materials that are supposed to work are obtained,
It all has to do with death anyway.
Basically.
Yeah. Okay.
When dealing with those kinds of spirits.
Yeah.
So how to take care of these child spirits or Kumantong. You're supposed to offer them sweet beverages, milk, toys. You can keep these figurines on a shelf or a shrine. Shrines are common in Thailand for Kumantong. If families or individuals no longer require the help of these spirits, they may be taken back to temples. The Kuman Tep, specifically though, they're partial to water or other beverages. You wouldn't offer them specific things like toys and candy and stuff like that. But the others you can.
Okay.
If the Kuman Thong are a part of a communal shrine, the Kuman Thong is said to assist the community as a whole. So that's like the give or take relationship of these spirits, right? So they're normally in figurine form. You put them on a shrine generally, or if it's in a household, I guess you can have a shrine inside a household as well.
Yeah.
And you sort of like give them offerings for their services to you.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's that. So the benefits of having these child spirits, and I use that term loosely because I'm still unsure how I feel about this topic.
Okay.
Protection. Some people use these spirits as companionship or prosperity. There's different benefits of having these.
Yeah.
Basically, you get to take advantage of their supernatural powers, you know? They're said to see and hear 20,000 kilometers from the home that they stay in and can alert their owners of danger. In turn, these spirits who are waiting to be reborn are building up good karma by offering their assistance to their adoptive families or communities.
Okay. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
It's actually similar to even like Catholic practices, like going in, lighting a candle for a specific saint or whatever, you know, like at the shrine they would have, in the churches, they would have like, oh, this is Saint Michael, or this is the Virgin Mary, or whatever.
Yeah. Characteristics of these Kuman Thong. These children spirits can be mischievous and could play tricks on members of the family or the children of a household. They each have their own personalities, individual will, power to leave or enter the care of their adoptive family. You're supposed to discipline these spirits by lightly striking the figure with a wooden rod and sternly telling them to stop their shenanigans.
Okay.
Or you would just chastise them and be like, quit doing that shit.
Yeah.
From what I read, they always have to be addressed or taken into account when making decisions or doing anything. Like if you're going to a friend's house, you have to say, hey, I'm going to a friend's house. You can't come. Or, yeah, you can come or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, it's Dave. You don't like Dave.
Yeah. Or like, hey, I'm having a friend over. Please don't fuck with them. And depending on how obedient they are, they can either be like, all right, cool. Or fuck that. I'm going to throw a tantrum and fuck some shit up. People who own these spirits see them as their own children and often refer to them as daughter or son, and themselves as guardians. You may ask, how can they call themselves guardians if they were only acquired to serve the household? Well, you have to look at the role and responsibilities children have in Thailand and even in Buddhist communities. I should add this disclaimer that I don't mean that all Buddhists or all people in Thailand have these views. There are exceptions, as with anything. Buddhist communities in this region do not see children as inherently innocent, but as spirits who have several lifetimes of karma, and in that sense aren't different from adults. Also, they have a responsibility to serve the family unit in gratitude for being allowed to be born. Basically, this kid has a responsibility to do everything that I ask of it as a form of repayment to me.
Right.
It's sort of like this kid's like a commodity, you know? And it goes along with the school of thought of just like, you know,
You should be grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned before, they have a responsibility to serve the family like a debt. This is in line with an old way of thinking and practice of having children in order to use them for labor, whether it is with doing chores around the house, lessening the burden of parents, or helping rear their siblings. This school of thought can be applied to lots of regions, though, in my opinion. Like, I was just watching a video today, I think it was like in Indonesia, that because of the pandemic, unemployment in Indonesia is on the rise, and a lot of villages that are like already like poor villages, families are saying, like, if they have daughters, they're saying, oh well shit, like we have to we have to marry off our daughter now because we can't like support her. She needs to make her own family and all this other stuff. So they're like forcing these basically they're still children to marry any fucking,
just to get them out of the house, like.
Just to get them out of the house. And you know, women don't have rights in that part of the country, like you know, the privileges that we have here. So they don't have a choice in the matter, and so they're sent to go marry like some random ass dude. And again, the family doesn't care if this dude's a wife beater or whatever, or how old this bastard is.
They have no choice as far as they're concerned.
Right. So like they get married off, and now they're forced to have babies because, again,
that's their job.
That's basically their job. Or if the husband doesn't care, if the wife gets pregnant, he just wants to, you know, do his business the way he wants to do his business with this woman. And if babies are the consequences, then so be it. Lovely. Fuck the patriarchy. Yep. So anyways, so that's what I mean. Like it's not just in Thailand. It's just that's just how that. But see, that's the thing. Like women, I guess, in this situation, like in Indonesia, commodities, the same thing as children are in different parts of the world. You know, they're being traded for labor, or you know, there's trafficking.
Just make themselves useful.
Yeah. I mean, poor families, they do, like horrible families, sell their children into slavery, you know, like.
Yeah, but even like in a less extreme version of that, like most kids would have chores and stuff to do.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you have a loving family, like the worst thing that you're looking at is chores.
Yeah, but I can, you know, that's the same principle though. Like.
Yeah. And because it's a Buddhist community, they're like, oh, well, you know, you have several lifetimes behind you.
Yeah, so if you don't do it now, you're gonna fuck up in your next life.
Exactly. So that's like the idea behind these Kuman is like, it's a give and take relationship, or it's like, I'm gonna adopt this, you know, Kuman and it's in its best interest to serve me or offer me its supernatural aid, because it benefits them for their afterlife, right, whereas I can directly benefit from it now. Yeah. You feel me?
I get it.
All right. So there are also shrines in Buddhist temples to Kuman. Here, Kuman can accept offerings and provide help for those who ask for it. Some shrines have actual preserved bodies of a fetus or a baby, while others just have figurines, like wooden figurines.
Wow. Okay.
The preserved bodies are usually given to the temples and not acquired like the black market fetuses, where they're stolen or bought from crooked doctors or nurses in abortion clinics or hospitals.
I was actually going to ask that, yeah.
I got all your answers right here.
So, would it be the families that donate them?
Yeah.
I think, okay.
There is a Kuman shrine in Bangkok called Wat Pradu that houses a preserved body of conjoined twins with 2 heads and 1 body that died at birth. They're displayed in a jar and surrounded by offerings, like to this day. The body was given to a monk for its burial rites in 1960s. Wow, the Southern just came out. Yeah. Burial rites.
Burial.
But then the abbot of the temple asked to keep it so that they could make a shrine for it. The father agreed, and now it's in a shrine outside the main temple, and those who make offerings do so in 2s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
A monk at the shrine believes that this Kuman holds lots of power, like it still has a life force, because he claims to have changed his encasing 4 times because the body's actually growing.
What?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
In this article by Megan Sinot, she interviewed 12 anonymous devotees of this tradition. She asked if they have ever tried to harness an adult spirit. They said that dealing with adult spirits is dangerous and shouldn't be done because those kinds of spirits cannot be controlled at all, whereas child spirits are easier to deal with. Something peculiar that they mention as well is that the spirit can age and eventually pass on to rebirth at whatever age they were supposed to die, had they been born or lived their lives normally. One devotee explains that she adopted the spirit of a 10-year-old and raised him to the age of 20 or 30. And they're just guessing, you know. So, like, one of the things that I was reading is, like this author, or this, the author of this article, there, like, the way she worded it, it was like when she asked them, what about adult spirits? They, like, basically shit their pants and were like, hell no.
Oh,
like,
no, fuck that.
There's, like, horror stories, you know? So, like, these Kuman Thong can come and they go as they please if they wanted to. You know, they have their own will, but it's believed that they have their own will and that they come and go as they please. And they believe that they're helping the family because they want to. But it's really dicey when you're dealing with things like this, because what if they don't want to?
Yeah, and also you're assuming that the child is happy with the family.
It's a blanket statement. Like, this whole thing is blanket because like with anything, there's always exception to the rules.
Yeah.
You know? Like, what is terrifying to me is if a figurine is housing a very weak spirit of a child and has no choice in the matter. And if you don't follow the ideology of Buddhism, then you essentially have soul slaves.
Oh, you're just purely using it for your benefit.
Yeah.
You're not concerned about them gaining karma.
Yeah, because what if, like, if you follow the school of thought that there is no reincarnation, then you're keeping the soul from passing on.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know how I feel.
Yeah.
Kuman Thong can also possess people.
Oh.
Yes. This same article interviews a woman simply named Jim.
Jim?
Jim.
Like Jim and Pam?
Yeah, but Jim is the lady.
Interesting.
In this story.
Okay. What's up, Jim?
The spirits may possess... This is the story. The spirits may possess their guardians either to protect their guardian or to get something that they, the spirits, desire. Jim described an event in which a Kuman Thong physically possessed her when denied a chance to celebrate a birthday with her friends. The friend, who also had a Kuman Thong, invited her Kuman Thong to go with them. Jim told her own Kuman Thong that it was not necessary for him to go with them and that he should stay and watch over the house, which was his primary duty. When they were cutting the birthday cake, she described having the odd feeling of desiring it even though it was chocolate, and she has never liked chocolate cake. This feeling of craving the cake overcame her, and she ate it. While she was eating the cake, she broke a glass and stepped in the glass carelessly. She continued to eat, oblivious to the fact that she was bleeding. She became aware of herself once again the next morning after having a disturbing dream. She dreamt she went to a party and a naked child was hanging off her clothing. The child was a mixed sex, and she urinated on her and was shouting, "Are you scared yet? Are you scared yet? It's me." She later dreamt the same dream. She hypothesizes that the child was her friend's Kuman Thong reacting to wanting cake but not being able to have some unless he actually possessed Jim.
Whoa. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And fucking terrifying.
Yeah. Here's an interview from that article. So sorry, that's not Jim telling the story. It's Sinot's account of Jim's story.
Okay.
Yeah. Sinot is the author of the article.
Yeah.
Yes. Police Colonel Hitima Tongchai, working at the police station that was handling a case, So she was chilling at the police station working. Well, not chilling, she was working. And while she was working, the officer told the story of child spirits communicating with her late at night. The remains of infants and fetuses, the distinction was never made and is generally not made when talking about child spirits, were being held at the station as the case was being investigated, the case that she was on. In the interview, the officer said she was working until about 9 in the evening when she heard the sound of children crying. She asked her workmate if he was doing something on his computer to make the sound, and he replied that he was not. She told him she heard the sound of children crying, and her workmate said he heard it too. She said she had never raised Kuman, so she asked her workmate what to do. And he suggested they buy snacks and beverages for the Kuman, and she did so. The workmate had a break and went to smoke outside the building, and he heard whispering in his ear, "Big sister is really good-hearted."
Big sister being the officer giving them the gifts. Okay. Oh.
Referring to the police officer who had bought them snacks.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That's actually a really nice little story.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a mixed bag, you know?
Yeah, so just like any other ghost story, really.
Yeah. Yep. So, that's crazy. It's crazy, like, how they say, like when I was reading about Kuman, the spirits that are instructed by the heavens to find a family. Because, like, their thing is, you know, well, whenever we have Kuman because they came to us in dreams. So, like, that's how we acquired them, you know.
Right.
I thought that was interesting because I had a dream about a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, just to sum up the dream real quick, it was just, like, apparently I had a baby now. And
this is your responsibility.
And she was my responsibility. It was a little girl. She could talk to me telepathically. I left her at daycare because I had to go to work. And I told her I'd be back. I took the train, and when I got to the train stop, I got off and I woke up because I had to go to work. I woke up before my alarm, like 30 minutes before.
So you never went back for her?
No, but it's crazy because it's almost as if in my dream, I was like, "Look, baby, I'll be back. I have to go make money for us." And it was as if the train ride to the train station was my soul coming back to my body because it knew that I had to wake up to go to work. It was like, it's almost like a transition of me actually just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what it was.
That's interesting.
Like, it was so natural. Like, yeah.
So maybe that's our Kuman Thong.
Maybe. But that's my story.
Yay.
What'd you think of it?
That very cool. No, I like that one.
Right on.
Any stories from other countries, like not just necessarily paranormal, but like stories about other people's customs, like
Yeah,
they're always interesting. You know what I mean? Like, oh my god, you put rice on the floor, like, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I like looking into different stories like that because, I mean, if Saudi had never sent me that, I would have never fucking have known to even look at this, you know?
Yeah.
And that segues into us reminding our listeners, if you have a weird tradition, or I guess even a normal tradition, because they think this is pretty normal in Thailand, just send it to us and it could be talked about in the next episode. Yeah, so like these Kumantong fetuses, like, people have these little skeleton, they look like little baby mummies, and they have them, people buy them. There was like I forgot to cite my sources. It was Atlas Oscura and Cambridge.org. And in Atlas Oscura, in in their article, it was saying that like they stopped a traveler from Thailand, and because he had like weird stuff, he was flagged for like a checking or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in possession of 6 fetuses, and having one is illegal unless like you're
a doctor or something.
or like it's in a shrine and it was acquired because the parents, donated or whatever. But he intended to sell these. There's a demand for these, and it was like the article said that each one of these were appraised for like $6,000 a pop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Keep your fetuses to yourself.
Anyways, so I guess we'll see you on the next one.
No.
No?
It's time for a listener story.
Oh shit, you're right. What am I thinking? What
So-
podcast am I on?
So this week we have a story from Reddit user Fat Twist. And I asked her, did you want to remain anonymous or give us your real name, or should I say Fat Twist? And she said, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. So here you go, Fat Twist.
Hey, Fat Twist.
So it's just a quick one that she sent me the other day. She said she has more, but this one will do for now. So ever since I was little, I've always been afraid of having the closet door in my room being closed. I always felt like if it was closed and then I opened it, especially at night, someone would be hiding in there.
Same.
I've never had a closet, so I don't know. I could never explain that feeling or that way of thinking until one day when I was like 17 or 18 years old, I mentioned that feeling to my mom. She was like, when you were little and we used to live with your dad, you used to say you would see a man in the closet. We only lived with him up until I was 5. And she used to always say that apartment was scary. She would say she used to hear the kitchen faucet turning on, ice cubes being thrown into the sink, banging on the bedroom doors, and footsteps. Most of all these things happened at night when everyone was in bed. She said she would go into the kitchen to close the faucet, but there was never any running water. So, anyways,
That's crazy.
that's how it ends.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
I have that. I have not for the same reason, but that's one of the reasons why I don't like sleeping with doors closed at all. Like my closet door has to be open, my bedroom door has to be open, because I don't want any fucking surprises.
And I'm the other way. I prefer to close the doors. I'm like, no, fuck it. I don't want to see it.
You never had a closet?
No.
Alexa, play the smallest violin.
I thought you were possessed just there. I was like, we don't have an Alexa.
You're like, I'm not Alexa, I'm Adam.
Yeah.
I'm Alexa on the weekends.
Yeah, no, the houses are just built differently. So I'm like, I'm sure there are some houses that have closets at home before people start going, oh, you have
How dare you insinuate Irish people don't have closets?
But yeah, no, I had like just wardrobes.
Okay.
Like
Oh
furniture.
yeah, your room just did have a wardrobe.
So,
that's right.
Yep. All right, guys, I guess that's it from us. Don't forget to follow us. Actually, I started a Facebook this week. This is going to come out later, but there is a Facebook group now. I'm struggling with it desperately. I haven't used Facebook in years, but it's at Weekly Creep, just like everything else is. So it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Our Gmail account, if you want to email us a story, is at weeklycreep@gmail.com. We are on, or at least we should be. I actually thought we were on certain platforms that we weren't, and I had to go and fix that. So we should be on Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Stitcher, basically anywhere that you listen to podcasts, we should be there.
Except for SoundCloud.
Yeah, we're not on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
If you're looking for us and you can't find us, let us know and we'll be on there.
Yeah.
Okay, and also check out the YouTube videos as well, if you're that way inclined. And thanks for all the support.
Yeah.
and all the nice messages. I actually wanted to shout out Kate from Ontario, who messaged us this week just to say that she was having a listen and that she was a big fan. So
Hey, Kate.
yeah,
Thanks for listening.
yeah, and thanks for the message. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, there we go. Good stuff.